I would like to thank some of my viewers who left comments regarding other locations and mounds. I'm trying to get a list going so that I might cover these little nuggets of great information in a future video. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you. So Wikipedia tells us that the WPA, or Works Progress Administration, quote, was an American New Deal agency that employed millions of job seekers, usually men, to carry out public works projects, close quote. The WPA was set up on May 6, 1935, by presidential order of the FDR Administration as a key part of the Second New Deal. It was renamed to the WPA in 1939. And whenever I hear the words New Deal, I can't help but think New World Order. So let's break down the jargon they're giving us here. How do they define New Deal agency? Quote, the alphabet agencies, or New Deal agencies, were the United States federal government agencies created as part of the New Deal of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The earliest agencies were created to combat the Great Depression in the U.S., close quote. They certainly don't mind referencing the alphabet agencies, do they? At least when it suits them. The earliest agencies were established within the first 100 days of FDR's presidency in 1933. Of course, do I need to point out the Masonic significance to this year, 1933, or the 69 offices that were created during his terms of office as part of the New Deal? I guess I didn't really need to point that out, but I must. It goes on to say that some of the alphabet agencies were established by Congress, while others were established by Roosevelt's executive orders, such as the Works Progress Administration and the Office of Censorship, among others. And some of these agencies still exist today and are referred to as the alphabet soup. The WPA was first headed by Mr. Harry Hopkins, a trusted presidential advisor to Mr. Roosevelt, who went on to become the 8th U.S. Secretary of Commerce from 1938 to 1940 under FDR. What did Mr. Hopkins specialize in? Being Chief Foreign Policy Advisor to Allied leaders. And during his career, he, quote, supervised many administrations for FDR. For example, the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, the Civil Works Administration, which, by the way, he built into the largest employer in the United States, the Land Lease Program of military aid to the Allies, and so many others. Mr. Hopkins also played, quote, a pivotal role as Roosevelt's personal envoy in shaping the alliance between the United States and the United Kingdom, close quote. What exactly is the alliance between us? Is it based on the leaders of the United States pledging a secret oath under Freemasonry to the monarch? Is that the alliance they are referring to here between the U.S. and the UK? And I don't know about you, but I think it's really amazing to see how certain people in history literally seem to be all over the place at the same time. I mean, how can that be? How can one person be so qualified for so many different leadership positions? How can one person oversee so many different administrations in the same time frame? Once again, like many others of the FDR administration, Hopkins' positions were created for him. Roosevelt was definitely pushing an agenda hard. Hopkins was so close as a confidant to FDR that he lived in the White House and had a leading, influential role with setting foreign policy with the United Kingdom and the Soviet Union on behalf of the United States. How Winston Churchill described Hopkins in his memoirs was, and I quote, that Hopkins was a natural leader of men with a flaming soul, close quote. Interesting description, isn't it? I interpret that as Churchill acknowledging Hopkins as a fellow initiate of the flame, or a fellow brother of the brotherhood, but I digress. I will have to look at Hopkins more closely in another video. He had his hands in so many things and in so many places, from Director of Civilian Relief for the American Red Cross in New Orleans and Atlanta, to drafting charters for many different organizations. He's definitely worthy of a dive all on its own. Back to the WPA. The largest project by the WPA might have been the Tennessee Valley Authority, and the WPA might have employed half of the population of New York. But the project that's most famous was the Federal Project Number 1. This is where the WPA, and I quote, employed musicians, artists, writers, actors, and directors in art, drama, media, and literacy projects, close quote. It's also known as Federal 1. And what is Federal 1? It's a collective name for a group of projects. These projects sure had a great deal of thought put into them, at least a few years ahead of time, which clearly demonstrates a particular agenda with many precise details being rolled out all at one time. The 5 projects that make up the collective group are, or were, the Federal's Writers Project, the Historical Record Survey, the Federal Theater Project, the Federal Music Project, and the Federal Art Project. And let me say that we will have to go over these 5 pointed projects in another video too. Suffice it to say, these projects surely kept most Americans too busy to question our history, to pay attention to the details of those governing us, or to question the narrative that was given to us by those who never had our best interest in heart to begin with. I'm breaking this episode into 2 parts because there is that much information to sort through. With that being said, let's stop here and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.